you, Beth. Wow, we've reached the end of the line. You always do in noir. But we're going to leave on a very strange note, okay, with the film that you are about to see. You know, people nowadays, they talk about independent film all the time like it's something new. It is not anything new. If you were here at the top of the last show and you saw the little film about the foundation, you heard in there that we were talking about how we're very often having to rescue films that were independently made back in the original noir era in the 40s and 50s. These are films that are independently financed and then distributed through the major studios. This is the way films generally get made today. And it's still very, very hard to get distribution. It was not as hard to get the distribution back then because there were so few people that were in charge of it, right? So few studios that were in charge of it. The film you're about to see is an example of the work of a man who was an independent filmmaker in the 1950s. And he had a very special niche in the history of American cinema and sort of film noir, not completely, but an interesting little subset of it. His name is Hugo Haas. And Hugo Haas is originally from Czechoslovakia. He was a very well-known and esteemed producer, writer, director, actor in Czechoslovakia. And of course, when, as you know, if you've heard me talk about film noir and how the influence that Europeans had in Hollywood, many of them who came to America with the rise of the Nazis in Germany that forced their best filmmakers to leave the country and you know, ply their trade elsewhere, thankfully, many of them in Hollywood. Well, Hugo Haas, similar situation, right? The Nazis took over in Czechoslovakia, invaded the country. Hugo Haas left Czechoslovakia, made his way to America, and primarily worked as a character actor, as a great number of people who were in the theater or films who came to America then, they got work as character actors. That was what they could do. And of course, whether you were a Czechoslovakian or an Austrian or a Hungarian or whatever, in the 1940s, because mostly what Hollywood was doing when they had Europeans like that in their films, they were making them play like cartoon versions of Nazis. Now, can you imagine the insult that these people felt being asked to earn their living playing the very people that drove them out of their country to begin with? A very, very difficult situation. And this didn't sit well with Hugo Haas. So what he did, instead of just taking it, he studied movie making, he saw what worked in the United States of America, and he decided to make his own films. So in the 1950s, he made this whole series of movies, most of them distributed either by Columbia or 20th Century Fox, that were all in some way a derivation of The Blue Angel. Now, if you've seen Joseph von Sternberg's The Blue Angel that sort of made a superstar of Marlene Dietrich, and Emil Jannings played the middle-aged man that was enthralled to this gorgeous young woman, and she turns his life upside down and eventually into a living hell. That's the movie that Hugo Haas made time and time again in the 1950s. It's extraordinary. He made this film about 12 times. And they all made money. So what's amazing is at the time, critics were merciless to this guy. They just said, oh my God, this is so embarrassing and blah, blah, blah. But all these films were making money. And here was Hugo Haas writing the screenplays, producing the films, directing the films, and starring in the films. And all of them had this very noirish thing about a guy who meets the femme fatale. She turns his life upside down, basically tries to ruin him, and he casts these fabulous young women. Beverly Michaels in this film, Cleo Moore is in a lot of his films, Strange Fascination, One Girl's Confession, The Other Woman, Overexposed, you know. I mean, extraordinary stuff. And then finally, at the end of the 1950s, he actually went back to Czechoslovakia. And it's fascinating because there was a website, a film website in Czechoslovakia that contacted me recently, and I did a very extensive interview with them, and they were just thrilled that I was showing a Hugo Haas film as part of the Noir City Film Festival. Do you think there will be a time when Hugo Haas will be truly appreciated for the great filmmaker he was? And I said, I'm sure there will be a time when Hugo Haas is appreciated. I actually kind of revere this guy, you know. He knew exactly what he was doing. All of his films made money. He had a terrific career here in Hollywood. The critics, as I said, were merciless to him, but he made very, very entertaining movies. And Pickup, I think, is one of the best of them. The star of this film, Beverly Michaels, was a showgirl who became an actress. I think she is probably the tallest actress in Hollywood history. I have never seen a woman on screen as tall as Beverly Michaels. She is very, very unique. She's very charming in real life. A number of years ago, I showed a film that she did called Wicked Woman. I know we've shown it here in Seattle. It's an extraordinary film, really. And we showed this in Los Angeles, and lo and behold, I walked into the lobby, and there was this amazingly tall, blonde woman, and I said, oh my God, it's you. It's Beverly Michaels. And she had come out because the show I was doing that night was really a tribute to Russell Rouse, the writer-director of Wicked Woman, and we showed it with another film of his called The Thief with Ray Milland. And she was married to Russell Rouse. When they made Wicked Woman, I'm sure Hugo Haas's heart was broken because she had made movies with Hugo, and then she made Wicked Woman with Russell Rouse and ended up marrying him and basically gave up her film career to become Mrs. Russell Rouse. And their son, Christopher Rouse, is one of the most successful film editors in Hollywood today. He's the guy who edited all the Bourne movies, the Bourne Identity, the Bourne Ultimatum, all that stuff. That's Beverly Michaels' son by Russell Rouse that edited those films. And she was an absolutely delightful woman and had a very good attitude about her very crazy career in films, which was very brief, but now very memorable. I mean, it's amazing how once you've seen Beverly Michaels, you never forget her because there's actually nobody else like that in film. So this is really a very unusual film. It's not truly noir. You will see by the end of this film, there's nothing noir about it by the end. But the premise is very much in the spirit of a James M. Cain, Postman Always Rings Twice, or something like that. And Hugo Haas, who plays the protagonist in this film, as I say, occupies a very special niche in Hollywood history. So, having said that, I know you're going to have a ball with this film. It is really, really entertaining. You cannot take this too seriously, but it is a delightful film. I know I hate saying that about a noir film, that it's delightful, but it actually is kind of delightful in a sick, twisted kind of way. You know, if you like women, you know, beautiful women torturing middle-aged men, it's a delightful film. So, I'm so happy that all you guys came out this week. You're really an amazingly fantastic audience, and I thank you for all the generosity and all the love that you've shown this week. It's terrific. So I really look forward to coming back to Seattle next year when we do this all again, and it's been a ball. So I thank you very much. Kudos.